Hey everyone, the Linux Mint Vera is out. That's the development version 21.1. I always love the development versions. They're really cool because they just got like these cutting edge features that sometimes you get surprised. And Linux Mint 21.1, I'm a Mint fan anyways. I really like the Linux Mint. I just have a real soft spot for Linux Mint. I think it's probably one of the finest distros out there. And so I really got to look at this. I just can't wait. So 21.1 is based on the jammy repos, just like 21. So the LTS support is good all the way through 2027. So this development version probably has some newer features in it that I don't even know about. Let's get in there and explore and find out what they are. I'll be right back. Okay, here I am at the boot screen. And so it looks pretty straightforward. I'm just going to go ahead and hit enter here. And we'll boot into the live environment and make sure our ISO is working properly, which I think it is because otherwise I wouldn't see the boot screen. All right, there's our Linux Mint logo. And they always have a really nice spinner there. I always kind of like that look and that color. And now we ought to be hitting our desktop here any second now. It takes a minute or so to load in because it's a live version, so it's got to kind of get all the stuff together. And there we are. Nice. Okay. So here we have our Linux Mint desktop with the default wallpaper in the background and looking good. And right off the bat, I noticed that the icon looks kind of different there. I think that's the new Mint Y icon and really like that. Wow. So that's a good impression right off the bat. So let's just get right to it. I'm just going to jump in here and just kind of rush through this because the install process really is probably no different than anything you haven't seen before. And the spinner style there by default is newer too. I kind of like that. It's got cool colors there. All right, and so here's our installer here, Ubiquity, I believe it is. And so I'm just going to go ahead and continue again with the keyboard layout. And then here we have our options to install the multimedia codec. So I'm going to go with that for sure. I always want to check that because I don't want to be left out with my codecs. Otherwise, you won't be able to watch YouTube and all that other cool stuff. Okay, and now we're here. And by default, it's to erase the disk and install Linux Mint. And that's just what I'm going to go with. If you want to do customized partitioning and all that, if you're a little more advanced, then you can choose something else there. And then that'll let you kind of do your own partitions. So I'm going to hit install now. And now it's verifying if I want to write the changes to the disk, and I'm good with that because it is going to erase everything on here, but I can handle that. So I'm going to hit continue. And now it's time to select our time zone, and New York works for me, so I'm going to hit continue, and then we'll just give it a username, the old Toadwick, and then a password, and that should do the trick. And so you can also select login automatically if you like to log in, if you don't like to go through the login process when you start up. Otherwise, just leave it unchecked like me, and I'm going to hit continue here, and now we're off. So it's going to copy files. This shouldn't take too long, a few minutes, and then I'll be right back. Okay, and there we are. Install's complete, so that didn't take too awfully long. I'm going to hit restart and be right back. And then we'll just remove the medium and press enter, and we're good to go. Yes. Okay, and after our easy peasy install, we should have an easy peasy boot to boot. And there's our Linux Mint. So looking good. When you see the splash screen, that's always a good sign. The next good sign is the login screen, which is about to appear right now. Yes. Excellent. So that's all good. I'm just going to log right in here and authenticate. And then we should see something. And there we go. Yes, and a nice little tone there for boot up. Usually I don't like boot up sounds, but I like that because it's just kind of nice and subtle and has a pleasant sound to it. So that's cool. So right off the bat, you're hit with the classic beauty of Linux Mint here and the welcome screen. So that's all good. I always like the welcome screen, and then you can go here to the first steps and you can kind of tweak it right off the bat, right out of the gate. Another feature I like, and there's those cool Mint Y icons, which I really like. Those are nice. So if we go over here, if we want to tweak our colors, I could go with, say, a green, and then you can see the little stripes change green here. Now, like with the other icons, these are different in the sense that when you change your icon colors, it changes the stripe across the icon rather than the entire icon. So that's kind of a cool little feature there. I really like that. I think I might put that on my Arch install. I like that icon theme. That's cool. And then, of course, here we got our dark selector. If we want to flip over to a dark, cross over to the dark side. Okay, control yourself, Jack. All right. So, and then, of course, we got more colors here. So if you want to go with something like a tan or an earth-based color, you can go there. And we got an orange here. Nice. And then a pink color and so forth. And sand. So a lot of nice colors to choose from here to just kind of accent your folders. And I really like the subtle accent. Very nice. And then it also looks like we have a feature here for panel layout. So we got the modern and the traditional. So the modern is a large panel with grouped windows and a small system tray. Well, let's see what that looks like. We might already be in the modern. I don't. Okay, so there's our modern. And we got our little show desktop right here, just like on a Windows computer. That's pretty nice and familiar. And so let's hit the traditional and let that switch over. And now that's the one we didn't have originally. So yes, by default, we have the modern. And then this is the traditional, which is actually a smaller version of the other one there. So yeah, you can kind of just take your pick there on your favorite look. I personally like the modern. I like having a little bit more of a area that I can see the bar and so forth. So to me, that's just kind of nice. And then here you can set up your system snapshot. So if you want to launch that, you can just kind of set that up so you can have snapshots available. That way, if you kind of screw up your computer after installing something, it's a lot easier to just go back to a previous restore point and you're good to go. And also, I got my little updater here. So I'm just going to kind of let that run here. I saw that down here in the taskbar. So I'm just going to hit OK here. And it's also checking for Flatpak updates. So that's another thing I think is new in this version of Vera is that the Flatpaks are installed by default in the software package manager, which is really cool. So we got Flatpak happening there and we should have our choices. And I believe snaps are still disabled by default, but that's easy enough to fix as well if you like snaps. So here it asks if we want to switch to a local mirror, and I can just say yes there, and then authenticate, and then I'll just kind of let that thing do its thing. And then here, since I said yes to switching to a local mirror, I'm going to go here under our base jammy, and I'm just going to select something from the US, and I guess we'll go with the fastest speed, which is right here at the top. So I'm going to go with that, 7.8 megabits per second. And our main Vera repos are already defaulting here to the US, so that looks good. And then I'm going to update my cache, so I'm just going to sit OK there, and we'll just let that cache update. I like cache updating, especially when it's green cache. Wrong cache. Anyway, cache is good no matter how you look at it. So that's kind of doing its thing. It loaded its software list, and I think we ought to be good there. And then here we can kind of look at our other stuff if you like, but PPAs, additional repos, and your authentication keys and all that stuff. So if you're a little bit more advanced and you need to do some customizing there with your repos and all that, most people would never have to mess with it. But if you're a tinkerer, that's where you can go. So I'm going to hit install updates here and just let it do its updates. And that overall theme looks really nice there. I like how it accents updated everything, even the progress bar here and your window buttons all have the same teal kind of look there. And so I'm assuming if I went and changed it to something else, like say red, then you'd see it reflected right away. And now you got a red progress bar with red buttons and accents and so forth. So when you hit those desktop colors, it really kind of affects more than just your icons. And I like that. So you get accent changes everywhere, even down here in your taskbar. In your bottom panel, you can see the update progress in red there is just kind of highlighting across. So yeah, it's really kind of peppered all across, but it doesn't overdo it. We got red here in our search bar, but it's not like in our highlighting in our menu. So they do have the right balance that they struck with the amount of accent to put in there and the amount to leave out. And I like that. I think that's a big plus. So anyways, while that update is kind of turning around, I'm going to just jump back in here into the welcome screen. And then I think we're pretty much covered in here. You got documentation here, which is always a good thing to have handy, and the new features and release notes. So if I click on something like new features and hit launch here, then it should kind of give us a little bit of idea of kind of what's new here in Vera. And it takes us right out to the Vera What's New PHP page, which is great. And by the way, we're in the Cinnamon edition, in case you were wondering and you're not familiar with Cinnamon. I forgot to mention that that's the one I selected. Cinnamon is the default desktop environment of Linux Mint. And so here it's showing that the look and feel has changed. So it's got a much cleaner, more modern look. The desktop was tidied up and now only shows essential items like the install icon and so forth, like in your live version. Nice. And then our vibrant colors. So here it's kind of showing where we can kind of choose with a more variety of vibrant colors. Nice to see that. And newer color shades there. And then they go on to show the look here with the new Mint Y icons. That is really cool. And then here's where we just were with the look and feel. So I think they really did a lot here with that. They've made some drastic changes, it looks like, but they also have legacy options. So you have the ability to go back to the Mint X icons and so forth too, I believe. And even switch the mouse pointer. So we have this kind of rounded triangular mouse pointer here called the Bibata Modern Classic, I think that's how it's pronounced. And so that's kind of a nice looking, fresh new look, as they put it. And also some of the system sounds changed. So yeah, I noticed that right off the bat when we booted in. I like that. And I like the idea that there's more choices with the themes. So it looks like they got some more installed by default as well, including Numix, Yaru, Breeze, and all that. So very good. I am liking it. And scrolling down, it looks like it's really a very thorough page here. They even go across the full Flatpak integration and so forth. ISO verification tool. Very good. Stick formatter and image. XApps improvements using Cinnamon 5.6. Wow, with a new panel layout. And they added the corner bar applet to the right edge, which is, like I said earlier, the same similar feature that's in Windows. So that's this guy way down here in the bottom right, show the desktop. So I like that too. I think that's nice to have right in there, that corner bar by default. And I think a lot of people coming over from Windows will find that to be really nice. And it looks like the dates in Nemo are displayed in monoface fonts. Made some changes to the path bar and other improvements as well, even showing artwork. So very good. I like all the info there. I'm just going to jump out of the welcome screen here, and it looks like our updates are complete. And so let's kind of see what else is new here. Let's right click and just kind of change our desktop background, because they were talking about some additional artwork and so forth. So let's see what they got. So here we got some, and this is kind of new too, actually, now that I'm just kind of mentioning it. I don't remember it being like this before. Here we can select our theme, and then we got our backgrounds off to the right. So we got kind of like a dialogue separated into two panes here, a left and a right. So that's kind of cool. And I just click on that and it automatically switches over. Really nice. And then we have our Vanessa artwork here. Beautiful. And so if we go in here, we can kind of select all kinds of, that's a nice looking background there. Wow. That is cool. So beautiful artwork. Yeah, I guess I gotta say they did update that. And there's a picture of San Francisco, and here's our Vera. So this is probably the latest artwork available. And then you can also choose from your own pictures directory, which there's nothing in here, of course, because this is a fresh install. But we got Frozen there, which is a nice one. It's kind of cool. Wow, retro. Yeah, I'm liking that. That is nice. Wow, beautiful. Okay, I'm going with that. Retro it is. So there we are. Nice. And then, of course, we got our settings here, so we can play these as a slideshow if you want to just kind of switch your wallpapers periodically. Nice. And then, of course, your picture aspect, you can zoom or center mosaic or no picture at all and just use a solid background color. Very good. So backgrounds, I'm impressed. I like it. And actually we could probably set our colors. If I go in here and just go into our settings, we could probably tweak our theme to just kind of match the background. So if I pop in here to, whoops, not effects, but there's where you can set your effects anyway, if you want to tweak those. But if we go in here to themes, we can kind of, here's where we can select our mouse cursors. So these are a lot of different choices. If you like the white version better, you can go with that, or something that's a little more pointy. And then of course we got the more traditional look, like the DMZ white and the X cursor. Well, we have X cursor Pro white light too. That's kind of cool. And then our Yaru cursor. And I guess I'll just stay with the modern classic. I think that's kind of cool. And then here we have our applications and our Mint Y icons. So if we want to go in here and match something with the background, probably like maybe these are the new colors up here, and then down here they have the legacy colors, Mint Y. So that's kind of nice. You can kind of go with all that. And then of course our dark theme colors here and dark theme legacy down below. And try the Mint Y dark pink and see, yeah, that works with the background. That is working. And so I think I'll do that with the folders too. And then you can see with our icons, you can see we got our legacy down here, it looks like, or our dark, and then our Yaru. Cool. So let's do the same thing with Mint Y. Where is that? There it is, dark pink. So we'll go with that. And I think that is a good match. Then we'll do the same with the desktop here, just so everything matches. In that utility that we're in, the color utility from the welcome screen, that'll change all three of these all in one shot. But this is how you do them separately in case you want to mix and match. So now we got everything just kind of all together working here. So now that works really well with this classic background there with the cool Commodore stuff and all that. Wow, well, that works. I like it. And then we have our settings here where you can show icons in the menus, show icons on buttons and so forth. That's kind of a traditional look. I kind of like showing the button icons on a button, but if you don't like seeing your buttons, if you just like more of a flat look, then that would be your default. And then of course down here we got our usual preferences like our accessibility, our account details. If you want to give yourself an avatar, you can click on that and select the picture here. And then you can give yourself a avatar, or you can select your own custom picture. And I think I'm going to go with maybe the cinnamon, since we're running cinnamon. We got a couple cinnamon sticks there. Cool. And then here's our applet selector. So these are always nice if you want to add some applets. The corner bar is the new one that's by default down here in the right corner. But these ones with the check marks here correspond to the items that are on the bottom panel currently. There's our grouped window list on here. And so very nice. And the window previews are working. And so any of these other things, if you want to turn them on, you can just simply turn them on. Or if you want to add something new, you can go in here like to the download and maybe choose from some other things. By default, it's sorting by popularity, which is what I like personally. And it'll sit here and it'll download and populate all the metadata here so we can see what's new. And I like getting the weather app. So that's usually the first thing I put on when I'm installing Cinnamon, is I like adding the weather app. And sometimes I'll change the menu too, because they have a really cool menu in here too. It's called the Cinemenu. And so that's another nice thing. The default menu is actually quite nice. And so most people probably wouldn't want to change that at all. But if you want just kind of a different look, maybe something more modern, you could actually choose that Cinemenu, hit the download, and then that'll download it into our collection here. And you can do the same with the weather or any of these items here that you might find interesting. Radio++, Redshift, CPU temperature indicator. There's all kinds of great stuff in here. So it's all worth exploring. And I backed out of there. But anyway, so now what do we do if we want to use those? Well, we can just go in here and click Add, the little plus button here. This will add it to our menu down here below. And then we could do the same with weather and just hit the plus button and then it'll add it. And there we go. Nice. We got that showing up. So I'm back here in the manage. While I was yapping, I switched over. I forgot to let you know that. But after I downloaded, I hit the manage here And so this is how we added these items in after we downloaded them. And so now that we got them here in our menu, I can just kind of close this out, or actually I'll just go back. And then if we go down here to our menu, if I click on that, we got a whole different look. And so this is kind of cool. If you like the look better than the traditional over here, then you could use this menu instead. And of course, in the Cine menu, by default, it doesn't switch categories when you hover over them. You got to actually click on them. And some people prefer that. Personally, I like them to switch when I hover. So how do you deal with that? Well, you can right click on menu and select configure. That's the easiest way. And then over here, we can just scroll down, just mouse over to behavior. And then right here, it says activate categories on click. So if we turn that off, then it'll automatically start activating the categories by hovering. So now we can go here and hover. Yay! So what if we want this over on the other end? Well, we can just go in the blank spot here on the bar, right click, and then select panel edit mode here. And now things have changed a little bit. We can just select this and then start dragging it. And we can drag it all the way over to the end like that. And now we got it there. And then if I want to get out of edit mode, I can just right click and then turn it back off. And then when I click on our menu, there it is. And I really like the grid look here. It's got a really nice modern look to it. So I think that's really cool. And then of course our favorites and so forth are all right down here on the bottom instead of along the side. And a lot of nice, easy access to some of our favorites like the console and file manager and so forth. So that's really nice. And then if you decide you want to replace the traditional menu altogether, all we got to do is go back into edit mode and then select this guy, right click, remove menu, and then just hit yes. And then you're good to go. Now you permanently have this guy, semi-permanent. So now we'll turn off edit mode. But wait, there's more. What if you said, oh no, I decided I don't like this anymore. I want to go back to the original. What do I do? Well, actually, it's quite easy. All we have to do is just right click on your bar, select Applets, and then you're back in your applet window. We would just select that and then hit the minus sign for remove, and that'll take it out of there. And then all we got to do is scroll down, find menu right here, and then we would hit the plus button and add it back in. And then it would probably show up over here on the right-hand side. And again, you would just go into panel edit mode, drag it back over to the corner, and you're back to where you were. So that's how easy it is to undo what you did. Cool. And then, of course, you got all kinds of tweaks here. So even your search option here, you can change it from Google if you want to use something else like Bing or Baidu, Yahoo, Yandex, DuckDuckGo, and all the good choices, tons. And then you got your appearance. So you can customize your icon down here if you want something other than the Cine menu. And then you can customize your icon size, your category icons. You can make them bigger or smaller here. So by default, they're pretty small, which is good, 24, and then 64 over here. But if you want those smaller or bigger, you can do that here as well. And then, of course, you can even adjust the size of your panel a bit here. So you can make it really wide or thinner. It goes down to a minimum of 3 across if you like 3 better. But the default is 4. Very good. And then there's also the sidebar box style. So if you select that and come up here, you got the sidebar box. Your search window right here, and then your other stuff right here. Nice. And then tile style, hit that, and now you got a tiling look. So that's kind of cool. You got the little grid separators in there. And somehow I kind of like that. I didn't think I would, but I actually do. That's kind of cool, actually. And then you can see that it's scrolling here a little bit on the panels because we got a lot of stuff here in our categories. And so you can also come up here to the top of the menu and just pull it up and make it bigger if you don't want to do any scrolling. So that's how you can adjust your size. And it'll remember the size, so you can come up here and now you don't have to scroll. And under our emojis, we got emojis here that you can select. So if you're into emojis, they're all in here. Whoops. But when you select the arrow, then they kind of drop down, and that's how your emojis. So that's kind of nice. That's pretty handy to have these in there. Excellent. So there you are, some extras in a menu. And of course, the rest of the stuff here are things that we've covered many times in other explorations of different desktops. And this is another way to get into your panel settings right there. And of course, you can auto hide your panel if you want. By default, it's always show, but if you don't like your panel showing up down there, you could actually just auto hide it or intelligently hide. I like having the panel here, and then your panel height here so you can make it smaller or bigger. And by default, it was sitting right at 40, right there in the middle. And so here's where you can do all your adjustments for panel, and you can even add more panels if you want something else, like something on top maybe or on the side. Then of course we got our hardware settings, and usually I like to make sure that my numlock settings are set up on the keyboard, which typically they are, like your mouse and touchpad settings. So if you're a lefty, you can go here and select left-handed, and then that'll kind of reverse everything. Or if you're like you're scrolling to be reversed, like when you're using your mouse wheel, then you can reverse the direction there. Like I think the Mac users would probably like that, because Mac seems to scroll in the opposite direction that it does on Windows and Linux. So that's handy if you're a Mac user and you're kind of irritated that the scrolling is going in the opposite direction. And by the way, if you click this left-handed mouse button and then you want to change it back and it doesn't do anything, it's because your button's changed. So you got to right click to put it back. So I just did a right click now, and that kind of put it back. I actually clicked on that a few times thinking it was frozen, and then I remembered, whoops, of course, I switched the buttons around. So yeah, a little something to keep in mind in case you ever do that. So I'll hit the back arrow here, and if we jump into our system info, it kind of shows our Linux Mint 21.1 using Cinnamon version 5.6.4. Nice. And we're also using the 5.15 generic kernel. So relatively up to date there. It's not the 6th kernel of Arch, but I wouldn't expect it to be. That would kind of mess things up. And then back here into our main area, we also got our driver manager, software sources, users and groups if you need to kind of do stuff with your users. Here you can go, and if I want to change the account type, like maybe you have multiple users on your computer and you made them an administrator by mistake, you can go here and change them back to a standard user, or vice versa. Maybe they're a standard user, you want to make them an administrator. So nice. And then here you can see all the groups that the user is a member of right here by default. And then these are a list of all the groups. So if you want to add a user to a different group, then you can pop them in there. So that's a little bit more advanced stuff for some people. And then you got your add here, so you can create a new user if you wish, or a new group. So those are all things you can do, some admin things that you can do through the GUI without having to use the console. So some people would really find that pretty handy. And then we got our software sources. So if we do that, look in here, this is kind of where we were when we did our update. This is another way to get in there instead of through the updater, which is what we did. And you can see this is where we selected our local mirror here. So that's all good. So there you go, system settings. And let's see what's in here by default anyway. So here's our all applications. We got our accessories, tons of stuff. Nice. Even USB image writer and stick formatter. So I like that that's in there all by default. And then basic drawing program and a picture viewer here and graphics. And then we have Firefox installed by default, and also web apps. So you can go in there, and if you have a favorite website that you just kind of use all the time, maybe it's Google Maps. You can just make a web app with this. It'll just kind of convert Google Maps into a web app. And then instead of having to go out to Google Maps in your browser, you can just select it as a web app, and it'll just launch automatically into Google Maps. So things like that, kind of nice. And then we got our transition BitTorrent. And then by default, LibreOffice is installed. And let me just check the theming on here. Usually LibreOffice is the one that has the messed up theme on their toolbar if the theming's not really great in a distro. But typically with Mint, you rarely ever have to go wrong. But I do see some darkness there. So never fear when that happens. All we got to do is go up here to Tools, Options, and then scroll down to View. And then here under View, we got our icon style, and it looks like Calibre is the default, and Calibre is actually our only choices. So I guess we'd have to get more icons. So I'm thinking we can't. All right, there's always a way around something. Instead of just saying, I give up, we can do this. I'll open up my console here, and let's do a sudo apt search, and then LibreOffice, and see what we get here. All right, so you can see here in our results that we got a bunch of styles up here. We got style Yaru, Tango, and a bunch of other things here. So we can add some of this stuff in here, like say style Breeze. So we can just highlight that and copy it. And then of course we got these other ones like Yaru and so forth. So might even add some of those. So we'll just do a sudo apt. And let me enlarge this a little bit here so it's easier to see. All right, sudo apt install. And then I'm gonna right click and paste what I just copied. And I put a bunch of spaces in there inadvertently. And then we'll let that install. Excellent. And I think I might add in Yaru too, just for fun. So let me just back up there and overwrite Breeze with Yaru, add that in, and see if that makes a difference. I think I'm going to have to restart Office here, LibreOffice. So I'm just going to hit OK and close it and open it back up again. And then we should see those other two styles here. So if I go down here and go to Options and View and select down here, wow, look at that. So now we got Breeze and Yaru. And of course, there was other choices too. So I'm just going to go with Breeze Dark, since we're in a dark theme. Hit apply, and way better. I'm liking that. Breeze is probably my choice, but just out of curiosity, I'd like to see what Yaru looks like. So I'll just kind of select Yaru there. And wow, actually a pretty nice look to it as well. So yeah, I guess that's kind of a toss-up. Yaru's got some more colors happening there, I think. So if I go back to Breeze Dark, we're in a dark theme. Then yeah, this is less color, but maybe more traditional that some people are used to. But I kind of like color, so I'm going to go with the color, the Yaru. I think that just looks cooler. So there we go. That's how you fix the LibreOffice. Easy peasy if you know the secret. Nice. And then, of course, our admin software, our system monitor, Synaptic Package Manager. So that's nice to have. I like Synaptic. That's kind of the GUI front end to the console. And Synaptic is actually quite fast. And then, of course, we got our Mint software manager here. And it's just updating the metadata. That's a first-time thing. And yeah, it looks nice. And the reason I went into here instead of Synaptic is because I want to show you the Flatpak integration. So if I did just kind of a search in here for like Krita maybe, then here we got results. And you can see down here in the little corner, you got FlatHub, you got the package version, and even the Gmike package version. So if I select the package version, for example, then here we can see our Krita and our description and everything, and it shows the version here as being 5.02 from the package, but you can also come right over here and select System Package and then change that to Flatpak, and then we'll have a newer version than 5.02, and here it's 5.13. So that's quite a bit newer, and that would kind of be my choice here if I was going to install Krita here on Linux Mint, and then it kind of shows you the additional software that would be installed. So I'll just hit continue there and just let it do its thing. And again, you can see that the theming looks great all the way across the board. We got so I'll let that download from FlatHub there. That should take about a minute or so. It's kind of a good size download there, about 992 megs there, and it's going to take up 3.1 gigs of space. Wow. So yeah, Flatpaks are a little bulky. If you like snaps better, then snaps are disabled by default in Linux Mint. However, they do kind of make it easy for you to install the snaps and re-enable it. And by the way, this finished installing, so nice. So if we launch that, that should just kind of work. And let's see if it showed up in our menu. If I go over here to graphics, there it is. Krita is right there. So that's working beautifully. Glad to see that. And there is our newest version of Krita. As of the time of this video, 5.13. So very good. Yeah, Krita is kind of one of my favorite art programs there. So really nice, and it looks great. It's themed well. Glad to see that. So like I was saying before about the snaps, if you want to add snaps in here for whatever reason, you can, probably the easiest way to find out how to do that is to just jump here into the welcome screen. and then go to documentation, and under release notes, I believe there's information on Snap right in here. So just scroll down a little ways and you got Snap Store here, and it'll go on to mention that the Snap Store is disabled, but for more information to re-enable it, you can click on this link. And then when you go in the link here, it gives you an easy way to restore it. Even gives you the pros and cons about using snaps. And then when you get down towards the bottom, you get to the bottom line, how to install it. So very easy. All you got to do is just kind of follow these instructions here. You would remove the no snap.pref file here. So all you'd have to do is copy this guy here and then go into your terminal and paste it in. And this is sudo remove rm, and then the etc apt preferences.d/no-snap.pref. So if you remove that, then that takes out the pref file, the no snap pref. And so that was the file that tells Linux Mint don't install snaps. Once that's removed, then you can simply just install your snapd and you're good to go. And also Snap Store as well. So that's all you got to do to enable snaps. Easy peasy. So after that, it's sudo apt update, and then it just kind of updates your cache here. And then you would just simply install your snapd. And of course, if you need more information on installing snaps, you can go out to the Snap Store, and they just kind of give you the steps for installing snaps there as well. And it even created the symlinks for you automatically and so forth. And I think it even probably started the service as well. So I could even check just by using a sudo system control or ctl status snapd, and it shows that it's running. So now you're all set. Snap Store is ready to go. That's some basic info on getting snaps enabled on Mint if you want to use snaps instead of Flatpaks. And yes, so that covers everything. So I gotta say, I am really impressed with this newest version of Linux Mint. Wow. It is so beautiful and flawless looking that it makes me want to go, oh, I want this as a daily instead of my Arch. Who needs endless access to a software anyway? Well, I do, unfortunately. But wow, I would definitely daily drive this on a laptop or some alternate computer where I don't have to have a need to be able to install every piece of software out there on the planet like you get in Arch. So this is definitely something, if I'm not using Arch, I would be very happy with this. And Linux Mint Vera, wow, to me is like just first impression is one of the best versions I've seen of Linux Mint to date. Wow. I mean, I love the new look. To me, that's huge. The icons, the Mint Y icons, and the optimized way to change wallpapers. And it wasn't too long ago when you changed wallpapers in Cinnamon, you always had to click apply before you would see the result. And now it's kind of an instant feedback. And I always thought that was kind of a shortcoming in Cinnamon. And it wasn't too long ago when they kind of changed that. And now they made it even better in 5.6, which we're seeing here in the Cinnamon 21.1. And of course, I can't remember if you had that in Cinnamon Vanessa, but I don't think so. So, yeah, wow. I mean, to me, that's just kind of a big deal, but I'm kind of an artsy visual kind of person anyways, even though I'm also at the same time very logical and mathematical and one of those programmer types. But I have a perfect balance of both, so I can appreciate both sides here. And it feels very fast and zippy, too. So I like the feel overall. There's no lagging that I can detect when I'm working around in here, and it just seemed very responsive and absolutely gorgeous. I mean, sometimes you hear criticism with Cinnamon as being kind of old school looking, but to me, I think it looks wonderful, and it doesn't take much to just kind of tweak it up, like here with the Cinnamon menu like we did, where you can have the grid look here on the side and just kind of a more modern look. So just that alone really kind of does a lot to enhance the aesthetics. And I am definitely giving this a double thumbs up. And if I had 4 hands, I'd give it 4 thumbs up. But I don't, so I won't, but I would if I could. So, wow. Yes, I hope this was helpful. This little sneak peek into the newest version of Cinnamon 21.1 development version. And as usual, the development beta here, to me, works great. I mean, I could probably put this on a production machine for myself, and it would be just fine. I'd be happy with it. So there you go. Linux Mint 21.1 Vera. If you're bored and you want to try something new, give it a shot. I don't think you'll regret it. So again, I hope all my babbling was helpful and all the little pro tips that I gave you there maybe will help someone too. And if it did, don't forget to leave that thumbs up and hit subscribe. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.